It's a pretty popular request to do this. We followed up on listening to our members, and we've decided to have this incredible 2-hour AMA to get some of our questions resolved. I will also run through a little bit of housekeeping. Should anything happen on your end, you drop out or anything, just go back to the original link and come back in. Just wait a second or two and then come back in. You should be able to come back in. We ask that everybody remain on mute and your cameras off so that we can keep focused on our panel. And that if you have any questions, to put them in the chat. And we have a couple of us working behind the scenes to get to those questions, and hopefully we'll be able to cover as many as possible. We received all your questions in advance as well. And so I will begin with the land acknowledgement. Randy, if you could put that up for us. Great. ACTRA Montreal would like to acknowledge that we are located on unceded Indigenous lands. The Ganyangahaga Nation is recognized as the custodians of the lands and waters on which we gather today, although it is historically known as a gathering place for many First Nations, including, but not limited to, the Ganyangahaga of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, Huron-Wendat, Abenaki, and Anishinaabe. Tiohtià:ke, Montreal has been the site of community, human creativity, and storytelling for thousands of years. ACTRA Montreal commits to respect and honor this tradition. In an effort to keep the conversation moving forward and actively make change, we encourage our members to review the 231 calls for justice from the Missing and Murder Indigenous Women and Girls Inquiry addressed to all Canadians. We'd like to share 2 of the actions at this time. 15.7, create time and space for relationships based on respect as human beings, supporting and embracing differences with kindness, love, and respect. Learn about Indigenous principles of relationships specific to those nations or communities in your local area, and work and put them into practice in all of your relationships with Indigenous peoples. And 15.8, help hold all governments accountable to act on the calls for justice and to implement them according to the important principles we set out. We also encourage you to read through all the calls to action and review the Indigenous Ally Toolkit found in the chat. And now I would like to welcome Janice Kirshner, ACTRA member, to read our equality statement.
ACTRA fosters an environment that supports solidarity based on the principle that all union members are equal. Mutual respect, cooperation, and understanding are our goals. We neither condone nor tolerate behavior that undermines the dignity or self-esteem of any individual or creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive environment. ACTRA's constitution, bylaws, practices, and collective agreements reflect our commitment to equality and respect. Complaints of harassment and discrimination are taken seriously by ACTRA and should be directed to the president or their designate. All will be investigated, and those substantiated will result in action by the union. Discriminatory speech or conduct of any kind hurts and divides us. ACTRA activities are to be harassment-free zones where our members' dignity and equality are respected.
Thank you so much. All right, now I would like to introduce our panel. Oops, let me get to the right page here. David Dubé, if you could give us a wave there, David.
Hey.
Sorry, there you go, you waved, right? I'm sorry, I'm switching pages. Yeah, thank you. Okay, David Dubé, welcome, David, is a part-time bassist, full-time music lover, and the store manager at Moog Audio for the last 3 years. Moog Audio provides first-class customer service with a team of knowledgeable and helpful experts, an exceptional catalog of state-of-the-art equipment. Moog Audio consistently offers the best ways to make music and bring your projects to life. And now we have Alex Gravenstein, a fellow actor, casting standards, and YEAA committee member, has been working with casting for nearly 5 years, where he has seen the wide gamut of self-tapes from all over North America. Also, In that time, he has been working with actors to help make their audition process easier and smoother, both individually and with his co-created audition self-tape workshop, isol-ACTION. And I'm excited to welcome and introduce our awesome moderator, Lucinda Davis, who is one hell of a talented performer working in theater, film, TV, animation, and video game. She is a member of the Casting Standards Committee as well, and a two-time ACTRA Award winner for voice performance. I now hand it over to you, Lucinda. Welcome and thanks.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I'm very excited to speak to our two panelists. And thank you very much for the questions that we got in advance. I'm going to try as much as I can to get through to all of them. Some of you asked questions that weren't about shopping for particular equipment, like they were asking about how do I do a slate? How do I edit? What's the best? How do I do a self-tape? All the processes for a self-tape, and I won't be focusing on those questions because the panelists that we have are really about buying equipment. But it does definitely inform us that we do need to have another AMA or workshops for helping you with doing self-tapes at home. So this is really about focusing on buying equipment in order to have a smooth, proper self-tape, so you can book those roles. So I want to start with you, Alex. It's the pandemic. I have an audition and all I have is a cell phone and a computer. So what do I do? What's the first thing that you would buy if I didn't have a lot of money?
Wow. Okay. So the first thing I would buy is some means to actually hold the cell phone up. So people usually go for a tripod, but you don't actually have to get a tripod if you don't want to. One of the things that I recommend is actually just a magic arm, which looks like this right here. They think they cost around $20 or $30. You can find them on Amazon. I think we have a link later to a list of all the actual items that I suggest. Magic arm you can attach to a chair. You can attach to a lamppost. So this way you don't actually have to get a tripod that takes up a lot of space.
Nice. So it just kind of like clamps onto the chair and then you attach your phone to it.
Yeah, so you clamp it onto there, and then you do have to get a phone adapter on the other end, which usually looks like a little U thing. I'm sure you've seen it for like cell phone holders for cars or for tripods. So if you don't like the idea of getting a big tripod to take up a lot of space, you can get one of these and a little bit of imagination and put it pretty much anywhere. The other huge benefit to these is you can take them traveling with you if you going traveling at a hotel whenever those open up again.
Right.
This way you don't have to take a tripod with you. So I find these pretty convenient.
That's a great idea. I learned something. Thank you very much. So is it better to use a camera over a smartphone?
So that's actually one of the biggest questions I get, is my camera good enough? And usually the camera on my phone good enough? And usually the answer is yes. It is good enough. The big difference that you get between your phone camera and a nice high quality DSLR is the size of the sensor, which just means it captures more light. So ultimately the only difference between the two is how much light do you have. So if you buy more light, your phone will actually look better. And I did some tests with an iPhone 4S yesterday, if you guys remember that one from like a decade ago.
Yeah.
Actually got it to look pretty good using just one simple light that I'm going to be talking about later.
Yes.
And just a basic setup with that.
Wow. So I had another member who had asked that about the cell phone, the camera on their cell phone. That's not very high tech. Their phone was about 10 years old, but you just said that you were able to get a pretty good video with an iPhone 4, which is a pretty old phone.
It is, yeah. So obviously every phone manufacturer makes a somewhat different sensors in there for their cameras, but odds are it's usually a lighting issue and not a camera issue. So there's no need to run out there and buy an expensive DSLR to go ahead and shoot this. By all means, if you're planning to shoot short films or anything else, sure, get a DSLR and use that for your self-tapes too.
Great. So if you're looking to keep using your cell phone as your camera, the first thing you would invest in is lights, which we'll get into later, over getting a new camera. If you wanted to maintain using your cell phone.
That's really tricky. I would say the first thing I would get is both a good light and a microphone.
Great. Okay.
As-
And we'll get to those later. Great.
Exactly. We're getting to that later. Yeah.
And if I wanted to upgrade from using my phone, what would be the next best upgrade?
So that's actually a really hard question to answer. There are a large number of camcorders out there, which work really well for self-tapes. I'm sure if you've been in some of the casting houses here, you see that they're actually using camcorders instead of DSLRs. Should have put it a little bit closer, but I'll just grab it real quick. So a DSLR is a camera where you actually have a lens that can come off, essentially. And these ones are usually used by photographers, but are becoming much better with video at the same time. Camcorders are the ones that you're used to where you hold onto it with one hand, you can do zooming in and zooming out.
Which is more expensive, a DSLR or a camcorder?
The answer is both.
Wow.
They can both dip into the tens of thousands of dollars, but they can also both dip down to the $100 or $200. The main thing that you need to look for is, first of all, what is your budget? And the next thing you need to look for is make sure whatever you're getting has a microphone input, and ideally some sort of, this isn't as necessary, but some sort of mount on top where you can actually slide on something. So this...
Is that for lights?
This can be for lights. If you need to put your microphone on it, you can slide that on there too. So this is just one of the microphones I'll talk about later. So it can slide on there. Obviously for microphones, which we'll get into, we recommend getting it close to the person as possible, but you can easily slap a light or something on there. But the most important thing by far is making sure it has a way to take sound into it.
Great. So DSLR, camcorder, both the same as long as there's something for sound and for lights.
Yeah, if you want to get into the more nitty gritty, make sure you have a couple of options for how you're capturing it. You don't need to shoot 4K. So if you're looking at things that are more expensive because they have 4K, you don't need that.
Right, because I guess you're compressing the video, so
you're going to be compressing it anyway, and odds are it's going to be giving you a bigger video file to work with, which can make it harder on your computer, harder on you in general. So you don't need 4K. Yes, there are some benefits to it, but for now you can make things easier on yourself, and you can just aim for 1920 by 1080 or 1280 by 720.
So what would be, say, the if I didn't have a great budget, about how much could a new decent camera run me?
You could easily get one for around $300 Canadian, probably even cheaper. I'm saying that price range because that'll include the ones with a few more bells and whistles, like maybe HDMI, which can make it nice for like seeing yourself on a screen or something.
Nice. And where would be the best place to purchase that kind of equipment? Amazon, Best Buy?
So I did a lot of research on this, or maybe not enough, depends how you look at it. I tried finding decent ones on Amazon, and I was actually running short a bit. Maybe just the search engine wasn't working with me. But pretty much any electronic store, Best Buy would be a good bet. Amazon does have some good options. Because camcorders, as you've probably noticed, are all over the place. Camcorders, DSLRs.
And speaking of sound, thank you, Dave, for joining us. And also we can get sound equipment from your store, Moog Audio. But if I only have a cell phone, is there a sound equipment that I can use that would enhance the sound quality on my cell phone that pairs with my cell phone?
Definitely. A lot of microphones, especially nowadays, are built to hook up straight to your phone. I have a lot of examples, but something as simple as this, which is a USB-C microphone. So for the newer iPhones, that would work. If not, there's options with different connectors. So lightning connectors, the other ones for the Samsung telephones. So there's lots of options that permit you to hook up a better quality microphone on your phone. So if you have good lighting, a good phone, and a good microphone, you should be all set.
And this microphone, is it attached to say like this port here, or do you have to?
Exactly. Exactly. So there's different models. Some attached to the USB connector, and others go straight into the headphone output with a protocol, which is 3 rings on the little tip. I don't know if I can show this. There you go. Alex is showing the good connector. So basically, it's the same one as when you use headphones that have a microphone built in,
Right.
same type of connector.
Right. Can you recommend a Bluetooth lapel mic that would work with a smartphone?
Bluetooth. There are some wireless options.
Do you recommend a wireless option for auditions?
I always prefer wires.
Okay.
Just because, not that Bluetooth is not good, but sometimes, like Alex mentioned when we were talking together, Bluetooth or wireless requires line of sight. So the receiver and transmitter have to be not too far first and have to see each other to work properly. So if ever you want to hide it, it can act up. So cables are always better.
Okay, interesting. For camera auditions, is it? I mean, you just mentioned about the lapel mic, but is it better to have a directional mic over something that you could hide? Because I'm thinking more in terms of price. Is a lapel mic cheaper than a directional mic?
They can both be cheap and expensive.
Right.
There's lots of options. One brand we really like at Moog and is called Rode. So it's an Australian brand. They do lots of different options for video recording, and so mics for video. So everything you need in our scenario, there's lots of different and cool options. So I would definitely recommend those. There's lots of price range. There you go. So there's lots of price ranges. Some kits come from $200 up to a couple hundred. But yeah, lots of good options. Just depends on what you already have and what you want to do. There's always a way to hook up everything together.
And that microphone that you brought up earlier, that would fit onto a DSLR camera easily?
So this one is made especially to go straight to your phone.
Mm-hmm.
But the one that Alex was showing earlier is this one.
Ah.
So, and this one hooks up straight to a DSLR. Basically, that's a directional microphone. So it's made to capture straight in front of it. So whenever there's background noises, it can reject those and just pick up your voice. But like Alex said, it's always better to have it closer than further, just to make sure you have a nice quality sound. So that's why sometimes you need more cables to make sure the microphone is closer, but the camera is further, depending on what type of shot you want to have.
I have a question from a member that asks, which microphone do you recommend for iPhone auditions that won't pick up my reader?
Anything that's directional.
Directional.
So if the reader is probably behind the camera or the iPhone, if it's directional, good chance it won't pick it up too much.
So probably this person was asking the question because they're just using their cell phone regularly without a microphone, and if the reader's right beside the phone, it's only their voice is going to be amplified. So as long as they had a directional mic, if the reader's standing right beside or behind the phone, they won't be picked up by the microphone.
Exactly.
Ah, great. All right. And in terms of you said around $300 for a decent quality directional microphone?
Yeah. There's kits that are also, I just stumbled upon it. It's a new one from Rode. It's made for vloggers, but basically you have pretty much everything you need. There's lights, a microphone, a stand. So it's simple, $200, fits on any kind of phone. So USB-C, there's a lightning one, and you should have a pretty decent start.
Wow, nice. That's good. So we have already that if you just have a cell phone and you want to upgrade, you can purchase a reasonable stand for not too much money. Or if you want to upgrade and get a microphone, you can get the $300 directional one, or that kit. That seemed pretty handy for $200. So that's great. I have another question from a member. I'm working with a Fostex FR2LE field memory recorder. Is that the right equipment to do voiceovers from home?
Let me just Google that. So Fostex are a good brand of field recorders. Is it what's the model again? Sorry.
FR-2LE.
Those are good. Basically, it's an audio recorder. They're usually used in the field. So when you want to go out from home and record some noises, you can definitely use it inside. Is there a built-in microphone on those? I don't think so. You just hook up any good microphone and it will do good voiceovers, definitely.
So for even intimate recordings, that particular microphone would still work for the intimate sound that you need for a voiceover.
That recorder. So basically,
oh, am I frozen or is David frozen?
Looks like he's frozen for now.
Well, Alex, actually, I have a question for you. Someone asked a question about the camera. Oh, where did it go? It was there. Oh, yes. Is there a particular reason to choose a camcorder or a DSLR?
The kind of the main difference between them is how you're going to be doing your shots. So a DSLR is really good at getting, you might have heard of this term before, it's called bokeh, which is kind of the blurriness that you get when you focus on a subject that's close and you see more of a blur in the background. Mm-hmm. So DSLRs are good for that, but it's not really necessary, especially for a self-tape. It can make your image look more sharp and a little more cinematic, but it's like it's not even the icing on the cake. It's probably like one portion of the sugar of the icing, if you want to follow that analogy. And something that's nice about the camcorders in general is that they usually have some sort of zoom. So I know that we get a lot of questions about how do you handle a slate when they keep on asking for a full body slate. And there's a whole bunch of different ways to handle it. But obviously, if you have someone who's there and actually manning the camera, they can use the camcorder to zoom in and zoom out with it. Whereas DSLRs, you have to have the right lens, and then it might be changing the exposure and a whole bunch of other issues with it. Mm-hmm. So ultimately, the only real difference between those two is it usually has to do with ease of how you're using the camera. Camcorder will have much fewer buttons and bells and whistles, which you don't really need for self-tapes. DSLRs will give you a much wider range of options. But in the end, it usually just comes down to lighting for how they look.
Nice, which we will get to. But I guess if you really are an expert with cameras, then getting a DSLR, it would be a good choice. And maybe if you're less tech pro, then a camcorder might be more user friendly.
I did forget to add one other thing, which is a camcorder any camera with autofocus is a big benefit.
Autofocus.
Right. And this way you don't have to worry about setting a focus and then all of a sudden you step back and now you're a bit blurry or you can go too far forward. Face detection or autofocus can be very beneficial. So that is another one of the key features: microphone input and face detection or autofocus.
And this you can find in either a camcorder or a DSLR?
Yes. Great.
And David's back. Hello.
Sorry, technical issues.
It's all good. So for intimate recording with the Fostex FR2LE.
So basically this acts as your recorder. So on the audio file goes onto this device. Mm-hmm. And if you want intimate recordings, the environment where you're recording is always important. Some people talk about a recording booth. If you want to do it at home, the perfect place is in your closet.
Yes, with all of your coats or your sweaters and stuff to absorb sound. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So all the clothes is gonna dampen the sound. So basically, if you speak close to the microphone, you're gonna get a really intimate, straight, like if the person was talking in your ear type of feeling. So just any good microphone will work. there is other options if you don't have access to a closet. There are some reflection filters, they call, which looks like a little booth in front of you where you put the microphone. Those tend to be a little bit expensive though, so it's always easier to do it homemade.
Right. But if say you don't have, like I know in my place, all of my closets have shelves, so I can't use my closet as my booth. So one of those curved, what did you call them?
It's a reflection filter.
Reflection filter.
So basically it cancels out reflections. If you don't know what reflections are, think about being in a huge hall. When you talk, the voice comes back to you.
Right.
Voila. So basically you want to eliminate that, and it isolates.
And how much would a reflection filter go for?
I think the cheapest one we have is around $200. 125.
125. Okay. So I mean, if you are someone that does a lot of voice work at home, it would be a good investment.
Definitely.
That's less, because I know that there are great voice actors who have like rigged their closets or bought like boxes from IKEA and like built-in sponge inside to be able to there's a lot of DIY options, but if you want to get that great sound and you're willing to upgrade your home, your soundproofing at home, then a reflection filter would be a good option if a bit expensive.
Yeah.
What would be one that would be less than that? That's a good sound dampening option. That's not the closet.
Like a model, exactly.
Or even another option
build a tent with blankets.
Blanket fort. I'm a fan of blanket. Yeah, just under the blanket, and yeah, that's a good option. Great, thank you. Okay, so let's go to lighting. We saw that lovely kit that Dave brought for vlogging.
If it's okay with you, I actually had some other options for sound.
Sure.
That I could offer. So we were talking about shotgun mics before.
What's a shotgun mic?
So shotgun mics are exactly what David was showing over there, like the road one.
The direction.
Yeah, so it's called shotgun, just like he was saying, because it kind of captures in a direct cone in front of it and tends to reject or reduce everything around it. So ideally, with shotgun mics, you want them, as we had both said, as close to the person as possible. If you've ever been on set, you notice they hang them right over top of your head, right out of frame, usually within about 1 to 2 feet away. The farther they get away, the more they capture the room. So these can be a great option, but another option that I've been working with in the past year now is lav mics or lapel mics. So they just look like these. This one right here is the JK Pro, which you can get for I think around $45, $50.
And does that would work with a cell phone?
Cell phones make things tricky, as I think everyone knows. As soon as Apple stepped away from having their headphone microphone port in there and moved to their lightning cable. So if you use the lightning cable, you do have to get an extra adapter for it to plug in. And this is what David was talking about before, where most headphones, just regular headphones or regular microphones, are just going to have a TRS. So you see those 2 black rings on there. Whereas most of your headphones that are like this and have a built-in microphone will have something called the TRRS, where you see there's 3 black rings.
Right.
So the 3 black rings has to go into here first. And this is actually one of the other items I recommend. This is a splitter. So this one over here takes in a headphone. This one over here takes in a microphone, and this can plug right into the camera. So I don't know if anyone else has ever used a microphone plugged directly into their phone before. At least with iPhones, you can't play audio back. You have to unplug everything to be able to listen to it.
Right.
Because it's using up that one port. This guy lets you play back and listen through your headphones and still record through your microphone, which is pretty nice. It's also in one of the link that we just got posted right there in the chat.
Great. So that sort of equipment that you're recommending there is really only if you have a DSLR or a camcorder.
No, this works perfectly for cell phone. I tested
It
them
does
out
work
this
for cell
week.
phone. Oh, great.
yeah.
Nice.
So I can't speak for all cell phones because like different phones handle handle
Right.
the hardware differently. But at least for the iPhone that I'm on, which is the 10, it's able to take in and capture it from the lav mic itself, and then play back through my headphones.
Great.
So one of the reasons I'm really enjoying lav mics now is because the lav mic will move with you, whereas if you have a shotgun mic, as soon as you turn away from it, it's going to be losing more of your voice.
I see. So so more options for mobility when you have more action behind the camera.
But
Nice.
obviously, there's a catch at the same time. There's a little bit more setup required because you want to make sure wherever you place it, that you're never going to be rubbing it or touching it, and that it itself is not going to be rubbing against the fabric of your shirt.
And about how much is a lab microphone?
So this one here is what I would consider the budget option. After a lot of research, this one's called the JK Pro. Once again, it's in the link is in the chat over there. This one I think is around $40 or $50 before tax. There are downsides to spending less money, especially when it comes to sound equipment, which I'm sure David could cover if we want to go into that, including things like interference, just how good the connections are, losing sound quality over distance, et cetera, et cetera. If you're looking to spend and make sure that you get a better option, once again, you're going to hear this brand come up a lot when we talk about audio, is the Rode mic. This is the Rode Lav Go.
That's the same company that David brought up from Australia?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. They make pretty awesome sound equipment. So this one costs almost 3 times the price of the other, but it has overall better build quality and won't be getting as much interference as the other one. But if you treat the cheaper one well and give it its due diligence in setting up, you can make it sound pretty great.
And about how much is a splitter?
The splitter, I think, was it's in the list, but I think it was around $10.
$10, and the adapter for
your standard, your standard iPhone adapter, also around $10. Make sure though that if you are on an iPhone and you're getting an adapter, make sure you get an actual Apple brand quality one, because I've tested other ones which look identical. Oh, I'm tethered to my computer. Okay, here we go. Which look identical, but this does not work.
Oh.
So I tested it in many different ways on many different iPhones. I cannot get this one to work whatsoever. And it came in a 3-pack and none of them work.
Right.
This one, I think it was $10 and it quoted as Apple brand. It looks like it's Apple brand and it works on my iPhone.
Okay. And when you're using the splitter, a member asks, is the playback simultaneous?
Yes.
When they tried, there was a half-second delay.
I'm not sure. It could be whatever software they're using on the phone. It could be one of many factors, but it should be simultaneous. It's as if you're playing back through the headphones themselves.
David, do you have any?
Yeah, usually the older the phone, the more latency there's going to be.
Okay.
So that's for audio recording. It's a big thing. Just when you're singing over a playback track, you want it to be on time, and basically the latency is the input of the microphone going into the computer or phone in this case, processing, then coming back. Phones and computers are getting better and better, but it can happen.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Right. So would there be less of that latency if dealing directly with a camera over a cell phone?
Yes, but usually the camera, it depends if you want to record over something. So let's say you're referencing a track or somebody else reading, and timing is important. That would be a consideration.
Okay, thank you. So now let's go to lighting. Ring lights. Is it only for blogs, or is that a good investment for auditions?
So as probably going to be my theme of this AMA, it's both yes and no. I tend to stay away from ring lights.
Why?
For a couple of reasons. One is that there are a lot of models out there that look very attractive because they're cheap. But usually with lighting and just the same with most other production equipment, when you go cheaper, you tend to make sacrifices. And a lot of times you're making sacrifices that you're not even aware of. When it comes to LEDs, so LEDs are the actual lights that are inside ring lights or your general LED lights. If you're using cheaper quality ones, they have a poor color quality. So I'm sure you've seen it before where you're taking a picture in a mall or in another public space where there's fluorescent lighting or just other general lighting, and it looks normal to you in real life, but as soon as you snap the picture, all of a sudden it's magenta or green or some sort of sickly hue where it looks like you're sick for some reason when you're taking pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you've seen it too when you might have bought your own light and set it up, that the color just doesn't look right. There could be other reasons, of course, but usually it has to do with cheap LEDs being inside there.
Mm-hmm.
So with ring lights, the first thing I would say is make sure you're getting, actually with all lights, make sure you're getting high quality color bulbs, either for the LEDs themselves that are built in, or if you're getting soft boxes, which I'm going to get into later, that the fluorescent bulbs you're putting in there are high color quality.
And I've seen I've seen the ring lights that have lights, specific lights for cool and specific lights for warm, and those that have a remote where you can interchange them. Which would be better if I really was invested in getting a ring light?
So you can probably simplify things here. The standard color that works really well for skin tones and lighting in general is 5600K, 5600 Kelvin, which is the same thing as daylight.
Okay.
So the ones that have the different bulbs in there, it's usually some sort of blue or white, and then some sort of orange or yellow.
Okay.
And then as you twist, it just turns on more orange or turns off more orange or vice versa. And that's where you get the different sort of warmth or colder color. So daylight is dead center of all of that. It's like a nice, consistent white light, and it'll usually make your skin and make sure everything is represented properly.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with shooting something that's more warm or more cold. It's going to just sort of change the mood of what you're capturing.
Right. And you said that yes and no for ring lights. So what is a good ring light brand?
Well, I'll get onto the other yes and no part of that as well.
Sure.
I'm sure you've seen this in YouTube vloggers or in especially all those makeup tutorials that are all online. When you shoot with the ring light, you get this really cool, crisp ring in the center of the eye. And that's just because obviously the ring light is usually centered and the camera's right in there. So when the people are talking to the camera, you get to see the ring right inside the iris or the pupil of the eye. So while that makes eyes shine and very beautiful and endearing, at the same time, it can be very distracting, especially for the majority of self-tapes you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the reasons why I caution against getting a ring light and going for something that's going to be a bit more uniform and a bit more standard for most of your audition work. A huge benefit of ring lights, easy to set up, easy to buy, attaches to your tripod with the camera. But one of the big drawbacks is obviously what I addressed before, but also the reflection you get in the eye.
Mm-hmm. And would someone opt for a ring light over say lights that you will recommend because of price?
Usually it has to do with convenience.
Okay.
So ring lights run roughly in the same range. Well, I'm going to guess around $50 or so for a ring light plus a stand. And something like a softbox, which is also roughly around $50 for a softbox plus a stand and some bulbs. So,
really?
Yeah, you can find them for that. Once again, that's a different cautionary tale, making sure you're getting good bulbs. But most of the soft boxes out there, most of them will get the job done. It's just unfortunate because they take up a lot more space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And is there lights that you recommend for people with glasses? That's a question from one of our members.
Glasses are really tricky. When I was working in casting, I did a lot of work behind the camera and beside the camera as a reader. And a lot of times we'd have people coming in with glasses and trying to troubleshoot that. And the best thing you can do is, first of all, there are some glasses you can get that have reduced glare. So if you want, you can try and find those and then use those specifically for your audition. But the more general answer is it has to do with just positioning of the lights.
Okay, so there isn't a particular light that they could purchase. It's just the setup question.
Not really, no. So most of it is the setup.
Okay.
Usually, and as you might well know, most natural light is above your head height. So most of the lighting that you should be setting up should be at least roughly above you anyway to make things look natural. So the higher up you go, the less reflection potential you have for your eyes, unless, of course, in your self-tape, you're looking up towards your light, in which case we're going to be seeing that reflection.
Like right now, your lighting is very good. So what light are you using?
I'll just finish this, and I'll definitely, maybe I'll even show you my messy self-tape room from the other side. You get a look behind the curtain.
Sure.
So one thing you can do to avoid reflections of the glasses, get it up higher. The other thing you can do is bringing it over to the side. And honestly, you'll just have to try this out to see what looks best for where you're positioning your reader and how much glare you're getting in the glasses themselves.
Great. And I guess we could have some point, some sort of a workshop that focuses on that. We'll just focus on the shopping for.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. So your light right now, remember asks.
And I know we have some questions on lighting setup as well. So maybe I could segue into that. So my lighting setup right now is a softbox, which you see right there. And over there, I have an LED light. And the LED is acting more as the key, and the softbox is acting as the fill, which we can get into at some point. And that's it. It's just a 2-point lighting setup I have.
And your setup, if you mind me asking, how much did that cost?
Probably a lot more than people should be spending. The reason I got this LED is also because I did a lot of work with short films. So this LED has, among other things, a remote control, which is pretty fun. That I can do dimming with it. It's variable brightness. I can turn it up and down in terms of brightness. But more importantly, it also has the ability to run off of batteries. So most people who are doing their setups won't necessarily need something that is that flexible. So this light costs, I think, around $250 or $300, the LED. The softbox over here came in a kit of 3 that I split with someone else. So this one cost me around $50, $55.
And does one need both a softbox and an LED for audition setups?
No, they do not. If you want to get into the absolute standard of a lighting setup, it's called the 3-point lighting system. There are loads of tutorials on how to do this better than I could explain online. But the general idea is that you have 2 main lights that are on opposite sides of where your camera is. And this is to make sure that we don't have things like uneven lighting where all of a sudden I'm really bright on this side and dark over here and it can look a bit menacing. Hey, if you're going for it, why not try it? But that's why I put the light on the other side to make sure we get balance. The third light usually goes behind you and actually shines directly at you from behind. And the reason why, and I can't demonstrate it because I didn't think about setting it up. Or can I? I probably can. Just give me literally 10 seconds. There we go. So as soon as you put a light behind you, it actually starts separating you from the background. Obviously, this is still in frame, so it wouldn't look like that. But you can see how I'm getting a bit of a light reflection over here, and it's giving me a bit of an edge glow. And putting it over there helps me stand out from the background itself. I'm just holding my hand up so.
And what kind of light is that behind you?
This is another one of the lights that I recommend, especially more for the budget ones. So this guy is, and you'll see I have it attached to one of my recommended magic arms. This is the Aperture AL-F7. So this one also runs off of batteries. It gets insanely bright. And as you can see, it's pretty small. So if I actually just show it to you, it's right there like that.
Okay. And so this kind of light is for you put behind you to add that lovely little definition that you had.
This light
and separates you from the background, you said.
This light can definitely work as that sort of halo light or rim light or whatever they call it. They've got like tons of names for it. It can also work as one of your primary lights, and it can work as your only light source if you want to do that too.
Now, would that one need a diffuser as well?
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
How much are diffusers?
Well, this diffuser you probably actually already have in your home. Garbage bag. What? So as soon as I turn this on, you're going to see that I have really harsh shadows hitting onto my face. As soon as I just take the garbage bag and literally just drop it over top, you see that the shadows are no longer harsh.
Right.
So I have a self-made softbox just by putting a garbage bag over top of a light.
And there is no danger of that catching fire.
Obviously, whatever light you're getting, make sure that they don't get warm. Most LEDs do not get warm. If you're using anything like halogen lights, don't put plastic bags or any bags on them. Actually, you can put parchment paper. Oh, I can speak English.
Parchment paper?
Paper or baking sheets or whatever they call them.
Another member just recommended wax paper. Is that
or wax paper, exactly.
Yeah.
So things that can go in the oven, you can put right on top of those lights. But nice thing about garbage bags is you don't have to clip them on. Just literally throw it on over top, or white plastic shopping bags. Obviously, make sure it's white, because if you're using like a green bag or a red bag, you're going to be throwing that color on top of you. Yeah.
Okay, great. And what about your backdrop? We're getting a lot of compliments for your backdrop. Is that paint?
Thank you. So paint is a really cool option for not having to hang anything up and never having to deal with wrinkles. This is, I got really high ceilings, so I actually got to extend it to its fullest. This is a muslin backdrop that I got from a Toronto store because it was having a big clearance. I don't actually recommend a backdrop like this. I'm just using it because I have it. I recommend something that's actually a little more neutral in color. So this, as you can probably tell, has a hint of like a reddish purple to it.
Yeah.
And that's just aesthetically, to me, I like the idea of a neutral, dark neutral gray. A lot of North America recommends that. The other color that a lot of North America recommends is kind of a darker or rich blue, which can look really nice on self-tapes. The only reason I don't like that is because all of a sudden it biases the image, and to me it makes it feel weird seeing someone on top of that background, whereas a neutral gray, it just fits more into the imagination world for me. Plus, you can't really wear blue on top of blue, but you can wear blue on gray.
Yeah. And so would you recommend purchasing a backdrop over, say, having a neutral painted wall?
I actually wouldn't say there's any real benefit to either. It just depends on what you're comfortable with. The downside to this setup is that these stands are shoved into my corners, and they have a pretty wide foot. So it doesn't really show.
It reduces space.
The big stands take up a lot more space. So if you're really tight on space and you're fine with painting, I would actually recommend that. It'd be way easier. You get to have more room. Just make sure you go for a paint that is not glossy.
Not glossy, so matte.
Yeah, as matte as possible. As soon as you get something glossy, you're going to see the lights reflecting off of it, and you're going to get these weird sheens and shadows. And you don't want to have that taking away from your performance, of course.
And so you recommended a gray. Are there any other colors that you do recommend or avoid, or colors to avoid?
Pretty much the only colors I would be recommending. So avoiding, I would say avoid white. Because as soon as a camera sees that, especially if you have it in auto mode, which most cell phones are working on, that's a different discussion, it's going to be seeing a bright white background, and it's not going to know what to expose for. So I'm sure you've seen it before when you're taking pictures outside and someone's in front of something bright, that the person just looks incredibly dark, like they're in shadows. And then if you're doing the same thing with like a white background and you're shining lights on it, it's going to be hard for the camera to know all the time what it should be exposing for. So generally, very bright backgrounds, I would say avoid. And also at the same time, avoid incredibly dark backgrounds, so which is essentially black. And
you said you got your backdrop at a store in Toronto. Are there any places locally that you would recommend to get a backdrop like that? My
first 4 years of self-taping, I was using bed sheets as my backdrop.
What?
Straight from Walmart.
Okay.
And it's super convenient because they're pretty cheap. You can get like a king size whole set. I don't know what to do with the other sheets in there.
And how did you mount it?
And I mounted it. I literally have everything reachable right here, and that's convenient. I mounted it with these things. I can't find them on Amazon, but I got these from Canadian Tire.
Oh yeah.
These are sheet hooks. So it's got a little clasp right there that you clasp onto the sheet. And then this I bent out of shape because I was actually hooking it up into the support system for my blinds.
Okay.
So I didn't even have a backdrop bar or a stand or anything. I was just hanging on curtain rods or straight up into the rafters and the blinds.
So like in front of your window.
Yep, right in front of the window.
Nice.
And then, or I put these on the threshold of a doorway as well. Can hook onto it.
Oh, it hangs on the door. That's clever. I like that. And you say you got that at Canadian Tire?
Yeah, I think it was like don't quote me on this. I'll say a pack of 10 for maybe $15, $20. But I haven't looked for these in years because I've moved on to other items since then.
Wow. Is there a way to diffuse, say, if one wanted to use a ring light, is there a way to diffuse a ring light so to remove that creepy eye circle? The bag, the magical bag.
If you have your phone inside of the ring light itself, obviously
that would be a problem.
It's straightforward. You can try putting a bag over part of it just on the top, and then it'll break up the image already. The other thing I recommend for ring lights, if you already do have one, I would recommend a separate stand. But then we're also pushing into, I'm going to backtrack there. Another one of the benefits of the ring light is you can get away with, it's not recommended, but you can get away with having just the one ring light as your primary light source.
Okay.
Whereas the ideal is to have two light sources, like I already showed before, one on either side. So if you have a second light source, maybe even a second ring light or a window that's bouncing some light in, or even I used literally just lamps. I used a lamp shade, a lamp post, and attached other light bulbs to it at some point for my self-tape setup. So anything else to bring light on the other side, you can bring your ring light on a separate stand over there, and once again, just drop a bag on it.
Nice.
And if for some reason you don't like the look of the bag, you can try, most walls are white in people's places. You can try bouncing the light directly off the wall, which I can demonstrate with this again. So here the light that I had over here is directly facing me. And if I point it over at the wall, might not be able to see it, the difference here. Oh yeah, you totally can. So you can see that it's filling up the room, even though I'm only shining it at the wall. And the whole wall is now acting as my light source instead of just that tiny little rectangle.
Right. A member asks, what's the brand model of the LED to your right?
So this is the Aputure. It's like APUTURE. I recommend pretty much everything that they have because they stand by their color rendering index. So their color quality of their lights are all at 95 or above, where 100 is perfect. Anything above 80 or so is ideal, but this is super technical jargon.
Right. And someone else is asking if a beige backdrop is okay.
The only reason I don't like beige, so once again, this is getting into subjectivity. The only reason I don't like beige is because it starts hinting at normal human skin tones, which fall between the orange and the red if you really look at what the colors are doing. So beige is also in the oranges and the reds.
Okay, and you say normal skin tones, not all skin tones.
Actually,
I got no problem with beige.
No, so most, if you really look at it, and with color signs, all skin is red because it's filled with blood. So that's actually what's happening. And you can have brighter red or darker red, and that's where you get the whole range of skin tones.
Okay.
So beige is also a form of red. So it can look nice on people, of course. But when you're using it as a backdrop, I prefer to have something that has contrast to your skin tone.
Right.
That's why if you've ever noticed when people wear teal is a nice looking color pretty much on most people, because teal is pretty much the exact opposite of human skin tone. That's also why blue backdrops tend to look good. I'm getting into color science here. Sorry, I go down rabbit holes very easily, as you can probably tell. So beige, like subjectively, I would not recommend because it's pretty close to human skin tones. So that's why I recommend neutral gray, or as a lot of Vancouver and some US casting directors prefer a blue.
A blue, okay. And regarding your LED light, I guess the member meant the one that you have in front of you, not the aperture.
Well, they're both Aputure, so that's,
they're both okay. So
yeah, and they're actually both on my left over here. So the one that's behind is also Aputure. That's the 672S, I think. But once again, I only recommend that for people who are looking to be working in the field and doing short films. There's a lot better options out there for LED lights that'll be much cheaper that can fulfill the same job in your self-tape setup.
And really these soft boxes that you have, they complement, you mentioned earlier how being able to use your camera on your cell phone, if you really wanted to increase the quality, is just to have a better lighting. So this lighting setup that you're talking about there is perfect for those who don't want to yet invest in the better camera.
Yeah, I just did some quick setups and tests with it last night, the iPhone 4S, and then it crashed on me. So I haven't been able to get the videos off this whole time. So I would be demonstrating right now, but they were definitely way better than I expected. And it's just because it's the science of light. That's all it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. So back to you, Dave. We were talking earlier about a member had a question about voiceover auditions at home. So again, starting with just having a cell phone and just having those, you know, the Apple or whatever your headphones that your cell phone came with, is that a decent setup to do self-tapes at home? Just the headphones and your cell phone.
I wouldn't recommend it.
No.
The built-in mic on the headsets is okay, but since it's not straight next to you, it won't capture your voice to its full extent. What a lot of people use, so now that's a stretch, but this
Oh my.
is the classic radio microphone. And it's seen a huge comeback in the last couple of years because of podcasters and streamers. So if you want the radio voice, everything is super close and clear, this is it. It's a couple $100. So maybe not the option, but there are alternatives.
So this is someone who just wants to do self-tapes at home. So they're not necessarily doing professional quality recordings at home. This is just to be able to record an audition and send it off.
On the phone, I would definitely use like one of the directional mics. If you're going straight to your phone,
right?
That can work. They have a headphone output, so you can listen to yourself while you record. But if you have a computer, a nice option is a USB microphone. So basically, you just hook it up to your computer, hook your headphones to the microphone, and use a free recording app. There's lots and lots. You can get demos from different companies that'll work fine. GarageBand works. It is free on Apple. If not, something like Reaper can work on most computers. And just so a USB microphone, lots of options, lots of prices from $100 to a couple hundred. My mom actually does voiceovers for some yoga classes she does, and I bought her microphone like this. So simple.
It's so cute.
It's tiny.
It's so
super
little.
cute. It's like and $139.
Okay.
So super simple. It does a great job. You just choose your space, as we talked before. And for simple self-tapes at home, voiceover recordings, it's going to do the job.
So that hooked up to your computer and then some sort of a dampening, dampening thing, and you'd have a good
DIY dampening, and you're good.
Great. So about $140. That's good. Do you recommend different mics for audiobooks, which is more intimate, close recording, and those who are doing video game, which would be loud screaming?
There's two different microphones that are the most popular, dynamic microphones and condensers. So quick, dynamic don't require power, but you do need a preamplifier. So now we're getting technical, but basically condensers are more sensitive and pick up a broader range. Because of that, if you want to talk very quietly and then scream, it can be a bit trickier with condensers. So if you're doing voiceovers in a general with a general dynamic, which is always the same, go for condenser. It's going to pick up more of your voice, a bigger range. But if you're going to be talking dynamically, I'd get a dynamic microphone.
What's an example of a dynamic microphone?
The Shure SM58. I don't have one with me, but if you imagine a live show, what the singer's using, that's
Right.
it.
Okay.
The
Okay.
microphone with the round pop filter on top, the
Right.
grill.
Mm-hmm.
Those are 140. You can probably find some used for way less. They never die, basically. That's why you see them all the concerts. You can basically smash it on the stage and still use it after. So if you're really into your performance,
want to get that great quality, scream, bang it, yeah. So sure, Mike. And you mentioned a condenser mic. Are these aren't mics that could be used for you with a USB port? Would they?
Yeah. So most USB mics are condensers. So just with a USB, something like here. This is an option. This one comes with the stand, the USB cable, the microphone. So all you need after is your headphones.
And about how much one is that one?
This one is about 200, I want to say.
About 200. And what was that model of the radio quality mic that you talked about earlier?
That's a SM7B. But that one, you need an audio interface, which basically records your microphone into your computer.
Okay.
There is a USB version, which came out not long ago. The MV7, sorry. That works wonders. There's filters integrated, so if ever you want to cut out some of the boominess of your voice, or just background noise, you can cut out the low end, so it helps have a clearer sound.
Great. Because so often with microphones, you hear all the little technical details from like this one creates a more warm sound, this one picks up the high notes. So that Shure mic is a well-rounded.
It's well-rounded. It's actually pretty new, and it comes with a app which is for desktop or mobile, and basically it permits you to change the filter on the microphone. So if you want a smoother sound or more crisp sound, you can do that.
And how much was that mic again?
So that one is $329.
$329. Okay, so for that well-rounded sound, you're getting $329. But if you want a decent, that one that you got for your mom, you said was $140. That's a good base if you wanted to upgrade from just having headphones.
Definitely. Yeah.
Great. I have a question from a member. My Apogee mic has a lighting connector. I'm getting a new phone with no lighting connection. Can I get an adapter so that I don't have to buy a new mic?
Not to my knowledge. Apple is really good with that, changing ports all the time. And basically they're making you buy new gear. You can get adapters from USB-C, but not the Lightning,
right?
Unfortunately.
So, but could they use this mic to their computer? If they're used to working with their phone, would they be able to use an adapter to use it with their computer?
No, to my knowledge, there's no
knowledge.
Lightning to standard USB.
Right. So you might need to upgrade your audio setup because of your new phone. All right. Great. I have another question from a member. I want to do voiceovers from home. I have an Adobe Audition, the Fostex recorder, and 2 Rode NTG1 mics and soundproofing. Am I missing anything?
Headphones, but
headphones. About how much are headphones run you?
You can get some for some really cheap ones for $20. I recommend the Audio-Technica M20s, super cheap, $69. something like this.
Mm-hmm. And what are the specs that people should be looking for when investing in headphones?
It depends what you like, but usually I like something that's over the ear, so it blocks out more sound. So when you're working, you're less distracted by what's going on. Simple as that. That line of headphones is really nice. There's different models that go up in price, obviously. I'd definitely get one where the cable is replaceable.
Ah, yes.
That's
yes.
what always breaks in headphones anyways. And if you can just replace the cable instead of replacing the whole headphone, cost less over time.
Right. Someone wanted to ask again what the price of a reflection filter is.
We have one for $120
Mm-hmm.
in stock at the moment. It's called the VoxGuard.
VoxGuard. Nice. And in terms of looking for a reflection filter, I mean, generally what they sell is good, or is there anything in particular that we should be looking for?
Whatever model is going to work. There's no magic formula. Basically, it's just dampening material. Sometimes there's like a metal sheet over. Sometimes it's just basically plastic. Anything works. There's no, I don't think it, unless you really want to go like totally high end, anything will work.
Great. Someone again is asking again about the directional mic, because they really don't want their reader to be picked up when they're doing their self tapes. Can you recommend that a directional mic is the way to make sure that the reader is not picked up on the as powerfully on the audition? A directional mic?
It would be the best option because, well, the lapel is nice too, but basically the lapel is a bit more omnidirectional.
Oh, I misread that. They do want their reader's voice heard. So would a directional mic allow the reader to be picked up for their audition?
Unless they're really close. Like Alex explained, the microphone basically, that's why it's called a shotgun. It shoots in a very straight position.
So it's only picking up the person it's aimed at.
Exactly.
What's nice about the shotguns and the lab mics is that it will still pick up the reader. It just greatly reduces their volume, as David's explaining.
Okay.
So you still get to hear them responding. You still get to hear the energy, but you don't get the thing that I'm sure everyone ran into at some point when they record a self-tape with their cell phone, that the reader is really loud and boomy because they're right next to the cell phone. And then the person that we're actually filming is quieter. So shotguns and labs will fix that for you most of the time, if not all the time.
Great. And a member asked, do you recommend Zoom mics? And I will copy this into the chat.
So they're probably referring to Zoom recorders. They do a great job, but they're omnidirectional. So yeah, so basically like the H1N is a field recorder, and it has a pair of stereo mics that go like this. So they pick up a whole range. So it's okay, it'll do the job, but it does pick up a wide angle. Depends if where you're doing your self-tape.
So if you really wanted it isolated and just about you and less environmental, it's less ideal.
It's less ideal. You can, though, hook up a lav mic or an external mic to one of those recorders.
Okay. Someone is asking if you could show your mics again and hold them up a little longer so they can snap a photo of it.
Which ones?
So the little mini radio mic that you got for your mom.
Oh, yeah.
So that's like the first good starting point if you want to upgrade from headphones. That gives you everything you need.
Yeah.
All right.
So people can find all of this on our website. Just go for Rode. If ever there's more questions or follow-up questions, they can always write an email at sales@moogaudio.com. just mention it's a follow-up question to this panel, and we'll happily give more details, send links to specific products.
Great. So regarding software, now a lot of us you can either use the casting workbook software to be able to record and edit your auditions. Some people are using iMovie or whatever the free programs are using with your computer. What would be an editing software that you would recommend for either sound and or for video as well? So for just audio and for video with audio.
So for just audio, any DAW, so digital audio workstation, will work. Very popular right now is Ableton, GarageBand. GarageBand is free for Mac, so definitely a good one. For video, I'm a bit less informed on those, but
I can help with the video.
yeah, there you go.
I think one other one that's really nice for audio is Audacity, which I've used for a long time. So that's another free one that's easy to use. And Reaper is actually what David mentioned, is one that I've been using for the past year now, and it's not my favorite go-to.
And that one, how much does that one cost?
It's free.
It's free. Nice.
I mean, it's free to try out. They ask for $60 US. So like obviously it's good to pay for it. $60 US is pretty cheap,
Yes.
but it is technically free.
Great. And what would be the difference between Reaper and Audacity to make this $60 investment worth it?
Reaper is the full-fledged DAW, as he was saying. It can handle everything from like complicated music tracks to simple music tracks. It has a large set of filters. There's a lot of functionality built in there, which at the same time can also make it look more scary. But in the end, it is a more fully featured piece of software than Audacity. But Audacity for most of this will get the job done.
Mm-hmm. And for for video, you were talking
for video. So on the computer, the one that I recommend the most right now is called DaVinci Resolve, which is made by Blackmagic Design. You guys might have heard of some of their cameras coming out. They're a pretty cool company and they do a good job. DaVinci Resolve is completely free and it's on Mac, Windows, and Linux. The only downside to it is that DaVinci Resolve was originally created as a color correction suite or color grading suite. They only added the ability to do video edits and audio edits in the last, I'll say 4 or 5 years. I'm not actually sure. So they're still updating it over and over, adding more functionality, getting rid of a lot of bugs. You probably will run into some bugs here and there.
So it's a bit buggy right now.
It is a bit buggy, but I use it for my professional video editing projects at this stage already. So I get past the bugs. And another one of the downsides is that it's a heavy program. So older computers will probably struggle using it.
Okay.
There are a lot of settings in there you can do to make it run better on older computers, but that's another one of the downsides.
Well, what if I'm not that computer adept and my computer is 30,000 years old? What would be a good editing program for someone who's a bit technically not as advanced as you?
Honestly, at that stage, I'd be looking for whatever's already built into the computer. If you're on a Mac, you have iMovie. And iMovie will get the job done. It's not my favorite piece of software because I don't like how they oversimplified a lot of things, but some people love it. It's just not for me. And on Windows, honestly, I don't know if someone has a better answer for that. I'm really not sure of the Windows softwares that are free out there.
David, do you know anything? No?
Windows, no. Sorry.
Someone has written Hit Film Express.
I've heard a lot of good things about HitFilm. I honestly just don't know enough about them.
Is that a video editing?
It's video editing. They have a lot of built-in visual effects and filters, and I'm pretty sure it's both Mac and Windows. As I'm assuming Michael's responding to that.
And in terms of the software that we just discussed, like the Reaper, the Audacity, and such, do the softwares work both on Mac and iOS?
I don't think any of them work on iOS. I think they're all computer-based.
They're all computer-based. Okay.
GarageBand is there's a iOS version.
And iMovie as well.
Yeah. So those are good. If not, a lot of like Rode again. There's a built-in app for a lot of their microphones called Rode Reporter. And I'm pretty sure it lets you edit in a very basic way your recordings before saving them.
Nice. Someone is asking if an iPhone or iPad is better than an Android for self-tapes.
Are you talking about video or audio self-tapes?
I'm imagining video.
If it comes to video, that really depends on how recent it is. They've been updating the cameras in there like not even every year, like every half year sometimes. So some of the Androids have fantastic video quality, which has a lot to do not only with the camera, but the way that the phone processes the image that's coming in. Just like Google has, I think they've been ahead of the game in terms of their video processing as opposed to just camera alone. If you remember, they had beautiful night shots that they've been doing for like almost 6 or 7 years now. So I can't give a direct answer to that. It really depends on when it came out, so the version of it. And then you can probably just do a compare, how is the video between this one versus that one.
Okay, and someone has written that a lot of this is very overwhelming. So sorry about that. Our experts are pros. What do you suggest for someone looking for the simplest start as a newcomer? So in other words, again, got a phone and a computer and a dream in my heart. Where would you start? Just a simple setup for a video, and then we'll go to David for a simple setup for just voiceover at home.
So for the video, once again, the first thing you'll need is a way to hold your camera. And that, once again, I would say either one of these if you want to go super budget and also super flexible. Otherwise, get a tripod. In the equipment list, there's some tripods in there that I found that seem good. I have not tested any of them, but they at least have good reviews. So you need some way to hold your cameras, number one. Number two is you need a way to hold the light. If you get the ring light, you get those drawbacks and benefits that I was talking about, but usually you can go on the stand and your job for the most part is already done at that stage. I would recommend getting 2 extra stands for 2 extra lights. You don't have to go that route, but it will give you a much better overall lighting option because it's filling in both sides than just one solitary light. And when it comes to it, like this is actually the light that I recommend now. This light can easily replace, not easily, at least for the self-tape setup, it can replace the work of the key light over there, which I didn't actually get into before, but key light is what is your main light source that's actually lighting your face and doing most of the work. Then you have something that's the fill light, which is meant for just sort of filling in all the extra shadows that would appear as if the key light were there alone. So this does the job of the key light. It can also do the job of the fill light. And I think I can't remember the price of this one. I think it's around 140, 150 or something like that.
Okay.
And it's battery powered. It can be powered by USB. So if you have a USB power bank for your charger, for your phone to charge it, it can be powered by that too. So a lot of flexible powering options, or the standard Sony NP batteries, which have been used for, I think, decades now. And you can find them for relatively cheap. I have a link to a good brand in there for that. And then the last thing is sound. And David showed a good option for one that mounts directly on the phone. Or I'm also recommending is going for the lav mic, just to have it really close to you and really easy setup. And you don't have to worry about getting a shotgun mic even closer to you. The way I used to have my shotgun mic was on one of these. I would put it on this, and then I would have it right next to me on a frame. And now I'm doing a setup that has like 4 stands. So it's nice to be able to reduce that.
My goodness. David, do you have anything to add to those recommendations?
For the video, that's super good. It's simple. For voiceover, just a good USB microphone. It's one piece of gear. The rest you can do DIY. It's simple. Like I said, my mom is using it. She's not a computer geek, and she's doing it all by herself.
That's great. Someone is asking, how do I hook up my lav to an iPhone? What equipment do I need?
You just need the right adapter. So Alex had that lightning
The lighting jack adapter is showing up there, and the splitter.
It doesn't have to be a splitter. This is just a splitter for the convenience of headphones. But it needs something where you're taking the regular microphone connection, whatever it is, and changes it to the, as we talked about before, this. And if you get
and that goes into your computer.
Exactly, it goes into your computer or it goes into your phone itself. If you get the wrong ends going into this or going into your phone, it's not going to work. So you do have to make sure that you're getting those right connections.
Okay, great. Another lighting question from a member. Someone would like to know about virtual backgrounds on a cell for a self-tape. Is that a good idea?
I would go ahead and say not recommended for a lot of reasons. The virtual backgrounds is really puts a lot of work on whatever your device you're using, on your phone, iPad, on the computer itself, and it uses a lot of processing power. But I guess kind of the bigger reason is that because it's doing all that and figuring it out as it's shooting, it's most likely not going to be giving you a good, reliable image, especially if whatever virtual background you're using doesn't really match the lighting situation that you have in real life, which most likely it won't. So it's going to create some sort of disparity between placing you and whatever area you're in. I'm sure everyone has seen really bad green screen work before.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. And you don't want to have that sort of presentation when you're doing a self-tape.
So if I'm auditioning for transplant, I shouldn't have an active hospital scene behind me.
Lucinda, I would love for you to do that. I say go for it, try it out. But no, it's not really recommended.
Great.
Yeah.
Someone else is asking, what setting helps keep my file size down? I'm imagining for their video audition, and they want to send it off. What keeps the file size down?
So that's another tricky one. And as you'll see in the link from Kenyon Wells' recommendations for shooting, that's actually a list that I helped him create based off of a lot of issues we had with self-tapes coming in. 100 megabyte is kind of a crude estimation as to the size of the file. If your tape is supposed to be 2-3 minutes long for a scene, which is really rare, it is most likely going to be larger than that. The actual number to think about is how many megabytes does it take to make 1 second of video?
What does that mean?
So if your video is 10 seconds long and is 10 megabytes in size, that means every second is 1 megabyte. And that's a pretty large video rate. So the one that we recommend is actually right on there. Which is posted again in the chat if you guys want to see this. The video export settings are recommended as an MP4 MOV using H.264. This is really technical stuff, but if the editing software you're using has these options, make sure you tick these. And the bit rate that we recommend is around 3 megabits per second. So it's not even a megabyte. It's even smaller than a megabyte. It's a megabit, which is roughly, we'll say, half.
So what setting would that be if I wanted to achieve that? Because the numbers make sense, but
that's the hard thing.
Gentle on my poor little brain.
That's the hard thing, is that most softwares you're going to be using that are like straight on your phone, or really simple ones like iMovie, you're not going to have those options for it, unfortunately.
Okay.
So the rough rule of thumb that they put out there is that it's under 100 megabytes in size, but it's unless you're using a slightly higher quality video software, it's going to be really hard to know what actual bit rate it's using in there.
Right. So no simple, just click on this and then just shoot and smile.
The simplest I got to it is something you actually mentioned before, Lucinda, is the casting workbook software. Actually does a pretty good job. They upload it and encode it. This is just called encoding when you're making it small. They upload it and encode it in their own system to something that casting likes to see. It's not the best encoding out there, and it's not the easiest to use, because after you upload it, they give you a link, and then you have to send that link off to something else if they're not using casting workbook. It's a little bit of a pain, but for the most part, they do a pretty good job with making it easy to shoot the self-tape, label the self-tape, trim it how you need to, and then export it off to if you're part of casting workbook, I think you get 2 gigabytes for free or something along those. Another one that I'm just started looking into, so I can't yet recommend it, is called Splice. SPLICE. I'm just going to see if I can pull it up on the phone. And at least for the free version, it seems like they have good options for exporting at least at lower bit rates.
Okay.
So it's still not in the ideal range. It's still a bit higher.
Mhm.
But you can trim video with this. You can add simple titles, and then you can export. So once again, I haven't done full tests on it yet for the self-tape idea, but it seems to be something in the nice realm.
And it's one that you can compress it to whatever format that would be acceptable for most casting agencies.
Like I said, I haven't done. It seems like it's close to it.
Okay. Okay.
So I haven't done the full tests. I did really short videos, but they were around, we'll say, like 30 megabytes in size or something for maybe. I'm not even sure how long it was. Like I said, I haven't done the testing yet. It's something I'm looking into, and either way, it might be nicer than shooting directly off your phone and then exporting, which is usually way higher file size than it needs to be.
Right. Well, I am actually out of questions unless we have some members who want to say anything else. This was great. I learned more than I thought I was going to learn.
I saw one question or one addressing about other backdrop options that I didn't get into, but which is also in the equipment list. There are these collapsible backdrops that are becoming more and more popular. And actually, I think they're pretty great. I have not tested them out. They look like big ovals that fill up the back.
Oh, then you sit on your chair?
They can sit on your chair, or you can just get a T-bar stand. So the stand goes straight up and then has a T across it, and then you just hang it right on there.
Mm-hmm.
So this takes up a very small amount of space overall, but it can fill up nicely for your backdrop. So it would, at least with my setup, it would probably fit and make sure we don't see any of the edges. And they have those in colors of gray, blue, and green, and a bunch of other random ones too. But those are something to look into. Once again, I haven't tested them yet, but I have seen them in self-tapes, like when I've been processing them.
Mm-hmm. And so that would be something that you could set up and put it away, not have like what you have is like permanently set up.
It'll be way more discreet and easier to set up too than this. This one I had to extend all the way up, and then I had to make sure that the fabric was taut so it didn't get any wrinkles or shadows. These foldable ones, as long as there aren't any baked in wrinkles, it should be much faster, much easier to set up.
And another question I have, I think that the simplest answer when using Mac is to film in 720p and then export from iMovie in low quality. This usually gets me under 100 MB. Yes, Alex?
I mean, that sounds great. Yeah. Not a lot of people know this, but on your phone itself, especially once again, I can't say it for Samsung, but I know Samsung has a lot. I think they have a lot more video shooting softwares out there than Apple has access to, because the Android market is just much bigger for that. So in your phone settings, you can go straight over to video if I can find it. I'm just in settings. Yeah, maybe at this point you'll just have to take my word for it.
I think you can do that when you export, right?
So it's called camera. And as soon as you go into the settings and you go into camera, you'll see that you actually have options in here to record video at different settings in here. So here you see it's 1080 at 60 FPS, 1080 at 30 FPS, and then 720 at 30 FPS. So that 720 at 30 FPS should be the smallest file size. Yes, it is. It's half the size of the 1080. So they're doing 1 minute. Yeah, so 1 minute at 60 megabytes is so that's 1 megabyte per second again, which is pretty close to the range of acceptable. So yeah, that seems like it's a good option right there.
Great. We have more lighting questions. Please briefly review the 3-point LX setup against positions and purpose of the 3 lights.
Cool. I can totally do that. So, 3-point lighting setup is it possible to do a drawing on here? Can I draw on this?
How?
It looks like I might be able to.
Really?
Portion of screen.
Like on your face?
Well, I mean, usually there's like a whiteboard option right here. I'm going to just see if this lets me. Oh, it's letting me go. How cool is that? Okay, cool. You guys ready for a really bad drawing? Here it goes. So this is a camera. Cool.
Terrible camera, but go on.
It clearly is a camera. It's got a C on it.
I beg to differ.
This is the person over here, and this is their eyes who is facing the camera, and that's their smile, and this is their hair that they have.
We need to talk about your drawing.
Can you tell that I passed the drawing in the first grade? I did not.
I think you're lying.
So the lighting setup is you need the 3-point lighting setup is a classic one, where you have 3 lights to light the subject. You always need 1 light that's a key light. And that's the one that's going to have the most direct lighting of your face. See the lighting going all the way to the face here. So the key light's going to usually create a little bit more shadows. It doesn't have to, but it's the one that's doing the bulk of the work. The other light is called the fill light, and you usually like to have it the opposite side. And this one creates a more general lighting that's going to fill up all the shadows and make things look a bit more even. The last light, and once again, I can't remember what it's called. Sometimes it's called rim light, sometimes it's called halo, sometimes it's called outline, sometimes it's called backlight. And we'll just put it here as a question mark. There we go. And this one shines at you from behind to give you sort of a glowing edge. Now, the flexibility you get, depending on where you have this, is that these guys, can I change my color? Yay, color. Can be anywhere sort of in this area. So it doesn't have to be like at 45 degrees only. They can come all the way around here and just sort of light you from both sides. You'll have to set up, see how it looks for you. But that's the general idea right there. This is a piece of art. Wow.
I'm moved. I'm
okay.
moved. I'm surprised it's not in a museum right now.
Go. Now I see it. Yeah.
Well, that's really handy. And so the key light was your LED light that you had set up?
Exactly. So, I mean, for my setup, I actually have these reversed. My key light is on my left, and that one's doing more of the lighting, and my fill light's the big softbox diffuser, diffused softbox that I have over on this side. And I don't have a backlight. I mean, maybe I'll get one at some point, but right now I don't have it. This is I'm just borrowing this one from a friend. Otherwise, I'll probably be using this one. And if I didn't have, like I said, if I didn't have that other key light, I'd be using this as my key light because it's pretty practical.
Right. Okay. I hope that answers your question. Thank you. I have another question for David. What does David think of Scarlet equipment for creating home studio to work at home, not Audition? Is there a list for equipment that I can work with a studio online and be directed and deliver at performance level? I suppose if they're doing remote recording, I guess they're asking about remote recording. So what do you think of Scarlet equipment?
Scarlet being, I'm sure they're talking about these.
Okay.
It's a series from Focusrite of audio interfaces. It's the ones we sell the most of. Cheap, but super effective. They never break down. So definitely a go-to for beginner home studio.
And this particular kit that you're showing has the mic,
the headphones, and the audio interface. So this is a nice setup if you want to start, and it is retailed at $329.
$329, and that's just plug into your computer USB.
That's it. Simple. Plug in the microphone into the audio interface and headphones into the audio interface, and you're good to start recording voice recordings or music.
And do you need a sponge for that particular mic, or is that just ready to go as is? Do you need a pop filter?
Pop filter is always nice. Some of these microphones have a built-in pop filter inside of the grill. This one doesn't say, but usually in that price range for the starter, they do have one. If not, you can get a clothes hanger and a nylon sock.
So it's not only
filter.
to make wings for kids' Halloween costumes, it can also be a diffuser for sound. And that beginner package that you have there, would that be good for professional work at home?
Yeah,
like recordings?
Basically, it's, if you compare it to this, this combines the microphone and the audio interface into one.
Okay.
So that's all it's doing. You get more flexibility if ever you want to upgrade your microphone.
Mm-hmm.
You upgrade it and plug it in here.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this, if you want to upgrade and get something better, you have to buy the two components separately.
Right. Okay, I have a question for Alex. Why does our home setup seem to be way more elaborate than when we go to a casting house? Shade, member, shade.
That has there's a lot of answers.
Shade.
Some casting
places, but for a point that, you know, with this pandemic, we have had to have this great learning curve. Absolutely. Of having to figure out this home setup when before we could just leave our house, walk in, and there are professionals to make us look and sound fabulous, you know?
Yeah. So there's depending on which casting agency you're going to for an actual audition, like over all of North America, it's not just Montreal. There's a wide variety of what they have set up there. But in general, they should have it set up in such a way where there's at least some sort of external microphone. I'm sure you've seen in some casting houses, they actually have a shotgun mic that's positioned over your head.
Mm-hmm.
In other ones, they have a shotgun mic that's on the camera itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have some sort of background and then some sort of lighting setup. And mm-hmm. Just depending on what stage they are in developing it, it might be in different stages. So,
mm-hmm. But I mean, I guess it is still the same thing where there is a neutral background, there's still a microphone, there's still lights, there's still a camera. It's still the same thing.
It's all the same principles. But in the end, the reason why we as self-tapers at home go a little bit the extra mile is because unfortunately now we're going against all these other people who are doing these setups. Mm-hmm. And like I said, getting great lighting and a great camera and a great microphone doesn't necessarily, it obviously doesn't mean you're going to get the part, but it can make your performance stand out a little bit more because mm-hmm. they can see you better, they can hear you better, which is actually greatly overlooked in terms of video work. I'm sure David can attest to that, that sound is one of the most, did I say overrated? Sorry, underrated. Sound is one of the most underrated qualities in a video, mm-hmm. as opposed to like people think, oh, I need a more expensive camera. You don't. Mm-hmm. Sound, that's why I tend to lean towards sound and then lighting if I really had to choose.
Mm-hmm. Over camera.
I would probably, yeah, well, I mean, definitely over camera. But sound and lighting, I feel like I'd put sound maybe here and then lighting. They're really close. So the reason that our self-tape setups are this complicated is because we're trying to show them the best us. Mm-hmm. We're trying to, it's our audition, it's our job interview, if you want to look at it that way. This is us presenting ourselves to the best of our ability.
Mm-hmm. And also, if we're in a studio, we're all being judged under the same environment. You know, all we have to worry about is our talent. Whereas if I have a lesser lighting system or setup or sound setup compared to someone who has a great one, then it doesn't matter if, you know, how talented I am. Someone who's going to look and sound better than me, that's just going to pop more, you know? So I guess it feels more elaborate because at the end of the day, we all want to shine.
Exactly.
And because we're not all going into the same space, the contrasting environments is going to affect how we're viewed, I guess.
Yeah.
Good question. Okay, more questions. Okay. What can I cover my walls with for audio recordings, David? Sponge?
The classic you always see is eggshell carton.
Yes.
It works.
But you seem hesitant.
It's overrated. It's not. I mean, and how many eggs do you have to eat to cover your wall?
I like eggs, but
definitely go for blankets.
Blankets.
Like duvet, heavy blankets.
Mm-hmm.
You can put them on your curtain rod, and furniture. So like blankets and furniture, as like if the room is bare, there will be more reflections. Lots of eggs in the chat. I like that. So blankets and furniture. That's why in studios, the big studios, you know, behind the mixing console, you always see a couch.
Right.
Which is there for the artist to relax, but also it has a purpose of absorbing sound. So it's a bit more less reflective.
So say, would a bedroom be a good room to do recordings?
Bedroom would
Because
be
of,
good. There's a big bed. There's probably clothes everywhere.
I feel judged, but yes.
Not at all.
That's great. Okay, someone else is asking the question, can the Fostex FR2LE recorder do the same work as the Scarlet 2i2?
Some of the field recorders have a USB interface integrated. So yes,
Okay.
if that particular model seems only to have USB data transfer. So your audio files, once recorded, you can dump them on the computer, but it doesn't seem to have the audio interface functionality.
Okay. So would that be trickier to edit?
No, because you like if you use that Fostex model, you do your recording on the machine, put the files into your computer, and then easily edit them with one of the softwares you mentioned.
Okay,
Reaper,
great.
for example.
All right. Well, we got 14 minutes and no more questions. Anyone else have any questions for yeah, just a reminder that Moog Audio, the website is www.moogaudio.com. It's at 3828 St. Lawrence Boulevard in Montreal. If you have any questions, you can email at sales@moogaudio.com. That's MOOGAUDIO.com. Any other questions?
I just want to add,
Yes.
we want to offer a coupon code for anybody who wants to buy online.
Ooh, coupon codes.
ACTRA. That's the name.
ACTRA coupon code. Love it.
Yeah.
Coupon code. We got some exclamation points for coupon code. Thank you so much. That's great.
Welcome.
It's been wonderful. Any other questions? I'm loving chatting with these two gentlemen. It's been very, very useful. And I've certainly learned things that I'm going to be upgrading my setup. So it's very, very exciting. You know, we're all trying to do our best under these circumstances. And, you know, actors, we've had to hustle and adapt so quickly to in order to keep working, stay relevant and all that. Where would one buy backdrops? Alex.
So like I said, the initial backdrops I got were literally from Walmart or any sort of fabric place, because I was just getting king size bed sheets.
Right.
There are a couple of places that sell specific backdrops, but honestly, the king size bed sheets do the job, as long as you just find a convenient way to set them up. Because obviously they're not going to have the loops in there to send a pull through or whatever it is. But I found those to be a wide variety of options, because you can have everything from like tiger print to like just basic white.
Are you recommending tiger print for background?
I say try it out. No, I'm not recommending it. It'd be very interesting. Yeah, so they have a wide variety of colors and different sizes too, between like single, double, queen, and king. So I actually really do recommend those. Just make sure you know how you're going to be holding it up at some point.
So just a regular cotton bed sheets.
And once again, make sure you're not doing anything that's like a satin or anything that's shiny. What I did is I just brought my phone and I just really quickly just shone a light on there to see if I'd see an obvious reflection.
Oh, that's a good trick for people who are looking for materials that they can just shine. That's a good trick. Thank you. Yeah. And what I missed that. Someone's asking, David, is a pop filter a must?
It's for when you're going to record video, no, because you're not speaking into the microphone per se. But it is a very good option when you're doing voiceover, just so it cuts down on the sibilants, so the S's, the P's, and it makes it sounds more natural.
Right.
So yes, I definitely go for it. Either the sock. You can really actually put a sock on the microphone.
Okay.
That will work. Or the nylon on the hanger. Or if not, we do sell some for around $40. You can probably find some super cheap on Amazon too, like no-name brands. That works too.
Great. Another question. Do I really need a mic preamp?
Depends on the microphone.
What is a mic preamp?
So basically, preamp stands for preamplifier.
Mm-hmm.
So it boosts the level of the microphone before it records into either your computer or your audio interface. The radio mic we were talking about quickly earlier, this one needs to be boosted even before hitting like a Scarlet audio interface. They need lots of gain, so lots of boost in level.
Mm-hmm.
But most microphones, USB microphones, it's built in. And in the audio interface, the Scarlet, those are built-in preamps.
Right.
So you don't need a separate preamp. You can just use whatever in the audio interface.
Okay, great. Another question. I have an old mic and a new Focusrite audio interface. What mic is recommended for voiceover? You mentioned the Shure SM7B. Good? Other?
The SM7B is the classic, but it is quite expensive. For voiceover, I go with condenser microphone. The Audio-Technica 2020 for $200. So this is the USB version, but if you already have the audio interface, there's a regular version that works perfectly.
Great. All right. And I have one last question here. I have a clip-on mic for video, makes noise even though I'm not really moving too much. What do I do?
Do you want to address that, David?
Go for it.
So there's actually, once again, this is where audio gets really challenging, especially when you're doing a video setup. There are a lot of different factors. I think it was mentioned before that I created this Audition self-tape workshop called isol-ACTION. You can find links to it on the equipment page as well. We did a bunch of test videos looking at all the different audio setups and how to sort of troubleshoot that, and we're still editing it. The TLDR, or the summary version, is make sure that you have a good strong connection going between whatever microphone you have to whatever you're recording on. And then at some point, just try unplugging certain things, whether it's a power adapter going into the camera can actually introduce a lot of noise. If you have an extension cable, that can introduce noise. The actual interface between where something plugs in, if you're touching it, you can actually create noise by doing that as well.
Okay.
If you're filming environment, if you're filming anywhere near a fridge, and I mean near as in like 20 feet or 30 feet away, you could probably pick that up, and just like you can pick up AC.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, it's the quality of the microphone cables themselves. You can be picking up interference from radio waves or electromagnetic interference from high power devices.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long list of troubleshooting, and one of like the sound nightmare in general is.
But it's the sensitivity of the wire. The sensitivity of the wire. That's
I mean, if it's a lav mic, obviously it probably doesn't have to be the sensitivity. When you work with the condenser mics that David is mentioning, those things are super sensitive. So those sensitivities will be picking up like a lot of the room noise in general. But for your lav mics, it either has to do with the quality of the lav, or it's the environment itself, or at some point the connection chain that's happening from the microphone and then going into whatever the camera is.
Okay.
And
well, thank you very much. Oh, David, yes.
Yeah, if ever you have problem with your audio and you don't know what to do, you can always call us. We're not here to pressure anybody into sales. We just want to help everybody. So call us. This is my setup. I don't know what to do. It's making noise. We'll help you out.
That's really great. Thank you so much. Wow. I didn't think that we could do this in 2 hours, and Good job. Thank you so much. Very, very informative. Very, very kind and generous of your time and knowledge. Thank you so much. And Eleanor, I leave it to you.
Great. I'll just follow that up. You guys were fantastic. Thank you. And once again to our panelists, Alex and David and Lucinda for moderating such a fantastic AMA. Thanks, everyone. It is recorded. A few of you have asked a couple of times if you missed what we said at the beginning. It is recorded. It will be posted eventually on our site, on our website. So thank you so much for participating.
Thank
you,
you.
Lucinda. Thanks,
May
Eleanor.
the 4th be with you.
Oh, yeah, May the 4th.
I did it. I did it.
And it's recorded.